Wait, just a goddamn minute. But could Thomas Tuchel actually be returning back to the football club for next season? Today, my friends, we have a ton of massive stories that dropped this afternoon. I'll be discussing Nico Williams, Benjamin Sesko, plus a lot more. So I hope you guys enjoy today's video. So sit down, relax, and let's discuss what's been breaking this afternoon. Earlier this afternoon, Matt Law revealed on the Telegraph that we have star Athletic Bilbao winger Nico Williams on our radar over a potential summer move. Now, what makes the story quite interesting is that recently Nico Williams signed a contract extension which takes his existing deal to 2027, and there was a 43 million release clause inserted in that deal. However, Nico is currently earning over 100,000 a week after tax for Athletic Bilbao, so if we hope to sign him, we might have to consider breaking our wage structure to bring the player here. But for that type of money, 43 million euros in this release clause, that is not too much. And it was quite interesting to get some early insight from Matt Law surrounding summer plans for this year. However, I have to say, this news continues this recent build a star strategy that we're seeing with our football club. And I guess for myself, I would feel a lot more comfortable knowing what the future is surrounding our manager. Will Pochettino remain here for next season? Are we set to hire a replacement manager? For myself, for right now, whoever the manager is for next season, I feel like at this point in time, they must be listened to, and we must sign certain players that are needed by whoever the manager is set to be for next season. I think we have to relax and we have to calm down the strategy of signing players first without really having a proper idea behind who they're going to be playing under, how they're going to be used, and what's going to happen. I feel like whoever the manager could be for next season, his input into signings has to be respected now. Now with this news, it's no surprise that Nico Williams is a Joe Chills target, and he likes players like Michael Olise. Of course, he brought in players like Romeo Lavia, and of course, star boy in Cole Palmer. So I guess if we're considering signing attacking reinforcements, it does pose big questions around the future surrounding players like Raheem Sterling, Noni Madueke, and maybe even Mykhailo Mudryk, but I do kind of feel that with the long-term contract that Mudryk signs on top of the money that we bought him for, I think that Mudryk is a lot safer with his position here compared to your Sterlings and your Maduekes. Now with Raheem Sterling, even since last year, he was getting some small interest from Saudi clubs, with reports suggesting that they have made unofficial inquiries about the player's availability this summer. Now, I think last week Sterling's camp came out to state that Sterling is committed to the project at this football club, but naturally he will have to be. And I guess his future isn't really necessarily in his hands like that. In the case of Noni Madueke, at the start of January, he was hoping for a move, but since then, he's now found himself under Pochettino's favours. He is performing a bit better than what he was showing before, but I have to say with Noni, I feel like injuries have really slowed down momentum and progress. I don't feel watching him that he frustrates me. I get left with the impression that I want to see more, and I feel like I wouldn't necessarily give up on a player like him just right now. But regardless, let's discuss Nico Williams and let's understand his game, what he can bring and what he can do. And I think the key parts about this guy's game, this guy is one of the best dribblers I feel in European top 5 leagues. I think the stats kind of reflect this. You know, he's in the high 90th percentiles for take-ons completed, carries, progressive carries, and most importantly, short creating actions. And I like this stat in particular because it tells me that when Nico is carrying and dribbling with his great skill, great pace, it shows that he has a purpose behind what he is doing. He isn't freestyling, he isn't improvising. He runs at his man to create opportunities for his teammates. And you see these actions with his amazing crossing with either foot. You see these actions when he is taking his man on that great pace and is able to put in a pinpoint accurate cross inside the opposition's penalty box to find his striker. He's the type of player that we actually don't have. That consistent 1v1 dribbling threat that really opens the game up for your team, that creates that havoc, that forces the oppositions into areas and situations that they can't really plan for. And I like the fact that he isn't a heads down, run at your man type of player, but this guy has that skilled Of course, if he's playing in La Liga, he has the football IQ, the composure to play in the final third, and I think the stats really reflect what he is bringing for both his club and now national team. Now, if you see the stats from Nico this season, I think it's like 3 goals and 6 assists. You might think to yourself, Nini, these numbers aren't high enough. But you know what? We have to break away from judging players by stats alone. And with Nico Williams, what he is bringing to Athletic Bilbao won't necessarily be seen or reflected in the stats. But at the same time, does that necessarily mean that he is ready to come here and become our star winger? You know, it's very hard for me. You know, I cover these stories, I discuss these players, but you know, you can discuss the great things these guys do, but the reality I'm accepting right now is, will their games translate at our football club? And I think to myself, okay, let's say you're signing a Nico Williams, because let's keep things real, he is only on the radar for us right now. This report isn't discussing how we're looking to sign him definitively for the summer. But then I think, okay, let's say he comes here and he's competing on the left wing alongside Mudryk. Aren't we just recreating the same conditions in which Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic were fighting each other out to get minutes on the field for one position? In the end, did it necessarily help either one of these players develop and become their best selves? I don't think so. And I actually think that with most young players, unless they have like great fortune going their way, like let's say there's a massive injury to a star player which opens up a ton of minutes that these guys can accumulate in a short period of time, you know, when players have to battle out for one spot at a very young age, I'm seeing this pattern where it doesn't necessarily help either player. So again, you're signing a Nico Williams now for the incredible price, knowing that this guy has the potential to be worth double this value in the future. What I see at my football club is, do we create the environment and conditions for young talents and stars to be able to grow and develop to hit those lofty heights? And I've not seen that properly in like 5 years. And we've only been signing players under like 23 and under 21. Part of me feels like if I'm Nico Williams, I remain at Bilbao for one more season. You know, I play a great championships for Spain at the Euros later this summer, and I become a top 3 winger in La Liga if I remain at Bilbao, knowing the fact that your release clause is still there and you're still very young and those opportunities will open up for you in the future. But I think to myself, even though this guy is incredibly exciting, super skillful, you guys are seeing the clips for yourself. I want to get an understanding of who the manager is going to be for next season, because who that manager will be is going to determine how these guys get used, thus resulting in how effective they can be for us. So they're my takes on the story surrounding Nico Williams. My friends, share your thoughts and opinions. Let's now discuss the crazy report coming out from Sport Bild surrounding Thomas Tuchel's potential return to Chelsea Football Club. As it states, Tuchel, of course, is set to leave Bayern at the end of this season. Reports mention the possibility that Tuchel may take a sabbatical. If the right project presents himself to him this summer, he is more than happy to start working immediately for next season. Anyway, to go on, the reports state that right now, Tuchel is assessing and monitoring the situation at our football club. It states that he expresses no resentfulness behind how he was sacked under Todd Bowley and has not closed the idea of possibly coming back and working again under Todd Bowley. Now, could this be Tuchel putting out feelers using the media? Who knows? But if you guys remember, since Tuchel's sacking, reports came out suggesting that the ownership maybe would have not been as hasty to dismiss Tuchel because they respected him, and maybe they do things a bit differently in hindsight. So, is this opening up a door of a potential reunion for Tuchel and Todd Bowley to work together yet again? During the time when Tuchel was sacked, it was post-sanctions. It's one of the craziest periods at this football club. You know, Todd Bowley was our interim manager. We had no structures set. It was very hard to sign players, and we had such a short window to start getting things running at this football club. Now, you know, Tuchel during that time had some difficulties working alongside Todd Bowley, but he also had some difficulties in his private life. Now, I'm not one of those guys that will be discussing the rumors or stuff that was coming out surrounding that. I'm not someone who cares about that stuff. But if we remember an interview from former Palace owner in Simon Jordan, he actually revealed that there were some incredible reasons as to why Todd Bowley was forced to sell Thomas Tuchel, and he encouraged Bowley, of course, to reveal what went down. So credit to Todd Bowley, he's not one of those guys. Whatever happened has been kept private, And I'm not here to speculate on what that is. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that if I'm Thomas Tuchel, I'm going to be maybe a bit grateful, and I'm going to respect Todd Boehly for being a man and keeping my privacy intact. And you think to yourself in hindsight now, but was that move by Todd Boehly keeping the door open in case Thomas Tuchel was ever available in the market again? From a financial point of view, if Pochettino was going to get sacked, you're hiring Thomas Tuchel for next to nothing. And if you're Thomas Tuchel, you might be a lot more confident coming back to Chelsea Football Club, knowing the fact that there are now structures in place. There won't be that responsibility behind you anymore. You can now focus on what you want to do. There'd be time to patch up any type of disagreements with Todd Boehly, but it has been reported that since he's been sacked, they're actually on good terms again. Honestly, I think this is a very fascinating story. I don't personally know how to feel about that, in the sense that I'm not feeling like any negative feelings or positive feelings. On one hand, Tuchel can be criticised for certain things. For myself, and I like to keep things real, I wasn't as impressed with his ideas around the attack. At times, I felt like he was misusing players. I think at times his man management wasn't as beneficial, and we did have some big problems when it came to breaking down low blocks and defensive style teams. And another personal thing for myself was that I think, Tuchel sets his teams out incredibly, but the moment things go against what was being worked upon in training and game, I feel like the way he reacts to differences isn't always perfect. But on the plus side, I've seen some of the greatest tactical performances from any Chelsea manager under Thomas Tuchel. I think that Champions League win is one of his greatest achievements in his career, and he wasn't given enough credit for that because people forget we were dominant throughout that campaign. We dominated Atleti, we dominated Real Madrid, we dominated teams of fun, and we absolutely nullified Man City. During that season, we beat them 3 times in a row, and he proved himself to be one of the best managers in world football. Outside of that, more games against Real Madrid, more games against Spurs, Southampton, you can go on. And the reason why I give Tuchel incredible credit is because he came in and he took over a squad that wasn't necessarily catered towards his image, but he found the best use of them, which made us compete immediately. So right now, I'm kind of in that balance. There's pros and there's cons. And you think to yourself, if he was to potentially come back for next season, having a big name striker to work with, having a new dynamic and profile of players he could work with, could this possibly work? I remember a report maybe a few weeks back in Germany saying that Tuchel was even thinking about changing his back line to a back 4 for next season, and that could work in favour with what we're doing at this football club. So right now, my friends, all I'm going to say is I have to pose this question to you. How do you feel about Tuchel potentially coming back? The reality is, though, if you like him or not, he currently is one of the best knockout round managers in world football. And when it comes to cup games, tournaments, this guy has an incredible success rate in taking you to finals. So come on, share your thoughts and opinions. Let's see what you guys have to say. And for the final story, we discuss a rumour that has been floating and has also been kind of supported today by Matt Law, and that's the fact that we are turning attentions to Benjamin Sesko of RB Leipzig, and the rumour is that we'd even going for both Osimhen and Sesko in the same window for this summer. So it's crazy, but our interest in Sesko has been long term. For the past 2 years, we've entertained trying to buy him, but in the end, of course, he decided to sign for RB Leipzig. We've been scouting him since he was a teenager, playing for Salzburg, so he has been on this club's radar for many, many years. I think this season has been a great educational season so far for Sesko, but I think we have to understand the realities behind his development and his abilities for right now. Currently, he is a rotation striker alongside Poulsen, with Lewis Openda being the undisputed number 1. And this season in the Bundesliga, he scored 7 goals in 21 games, with those games being 10 starts and 11 sub appearances. Personally, for myself, when you're ready to be playing for a club like us, you have to be the undisputed star at clubs like RB Leipzig. And I don't think Sesko is there yet. Yes, he has some incredible promise in his game. I think his guy's finishing and shooting ability is ridiculous. I think for his age right now, he has very accurate shooting. I think it's like over 54%. He's in the 90th percentiles for shots on goal, shots on target, and to do this at 20 years old, playing in a bigger league, speaks volumes about his natural abilities. But is he ready now? I'm not too sure, but with Sesko and his level-headed mentality, who knows what could happen. I mean, he's been compared very lazily to Erling Haaland, even though they're two completely different styles of strikers. And this has been the type of talk that Sesko himself has constantly downplayed throughout his career. One of the reasons why he signed for Leipzig instead of going to a Man United, for example, was that he felt like at Leipzig they played a similar football to RB Salzburg. So that tells me that Sesko is thinking about the long term and he wants to maximize his development first before thinking about the next stage in his career. And I think for Sesko, it's about becoming the #1 striker at RB Leipzig. Now, the rumors state that we'd be open to signing both Osimhen and Sesko in the same window. Now, Sesko has a €50 million release clause, which is around like £42 million. So that tells me this: you'd only sign Sesko if you feel like he's an absolute bargain and you're kind of prioritizing the business over the development. Because development-wise, how does it help Sesko knowing that he's the rotation striker at Leipzig this season? Then he'd sign for us this summer, being another rotation striker under Osimhen potentially in a much more difficult and harder league. I get it. Sesko may have that potential to be a 100 million striker, but that won't happen unless he gets consistent minutes, unless he can play week in, week out, of course, to improve and mask those weaknesses. And currently, I've not seen this club in 5 years show repeated success in cultivating talent. Big guys like Mudryk, for example, he still left off where he began nearly 2 years ago. Now, let's keep things real. How many strikers have you ever seen in your life who are under 21, under 22, regularly scoring like maybe 20 to 30 goals plus a season? You can count them on your hands, R9, Haaland, Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo. These strikers come few and far at this age for right now. The only way I'd accept signing Sesko this summer was if we signed him and then loaned him back to RB Leipzig. But then even then, I prefer if Sesko was giving some results right now before I even entertain signing him, because I'm thinking about a future that may not even come, because that's how this game works. You guys might be thinking, Nini, you're being a bit too negative in this video, but I'm sorry, I've been speaking about signings and transfers for how many years on this channel, and for all the excitement and promise they show, reality is, if the conditions aren't right, these guys don't show their best form. So today, my friends, that is all the big stories that have dropped. What have you thought about things? Let me know how you're feeling about Tuchel. Do you think that Sesko should be signed? Are you ready to give up on Nico Jackson already? And obviously, how do you feel about the exciting talent in Nico Williams? I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, hit that like button. I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I will see you guys later with some more videos.